It's official, Nintendo is now suing people for farting alone in their own houses. Yes, they are indeed crashing out because after what happened today, there was a critical hit on Nintendo. Because folks, I just want to reiterate that the basis behind the Palworld lawsuit is so empty and frivolous. It's as dumb as if Minecraft sued every survival game in history for using the crafting items at the workbench mechanic. We all agree that would be stupid, right? Because not only is it entitled to even sue for such a stupid thing, but it's also stifling innovation in the gaming landscape as a whole, which is what Nintendo aims to do. Nintendo wants to hold the entire industry back because of their own incompetence. Now hit the like button and subscribe, baby. Because how are we not at 90,000 yet? Let's get there by the end of today. Now we all know Palworld is cheaper, has way more content, looks better, plays better, and isn't even finished yet. So no wonder why Nintendo wants to bury it, but like I said, they want to hold the entire industry back. Why? Because Nintendo really said, we made a bad game called Pokemon ZA that disappointed our entire fan base. It's a stain on the Pokemon franchise, and guess what? Nobody is allowed to make a better one and make us look worse. So we're just gonna sue everybody. Listen, it's funny how Nintendo sued Palworld just to release a worse Palworld. So the irony is that Palworld ran so that Pokemon could stumble around aimlessly. And before we get into Nintendo getting their pushed in, let's get to the context of what's been happening so far. So Nintendo's patent infringement, litigation against Palworld maker Pocket Pair is still ongoing. Nintendo clings to all sorts of theories to defend its ludicrous overbearing patents against Pocket Pair's invalidity arguments, including the position that mods should not count as prior art. It may be part of a PR strategy to distort the reality of who was first to create what, given that Nintendo is apparently developing a Pokemon spin-off with Palworld-like elements. Japan's Palworld office has rejected a Nintendo's application related to its Palworld lawsuit, citing a lack of originality. The decision raises questions about the validity of several Nintendo patents describing creature capture systems that are central to the company's complaint against Palworld, and we all know that game mechanics should not be patentable whatsoever. Patenting game mechanics is as ridiculous as patenting a mathematical equation. Imagine somebody getting paid every time someone adds 2 plus 2 together. It's anti-capitalism and anti-consumer. What it means is less products for me and you to enjoy and more for Nintendo to use in some kind of monopoly scheme. I think game mechanics being patented should be abolished, at least in America and Europe. Now, September 19th marked the anniversary of Nintendo and Pokemon companies filing a joint patent lawsuit against Palworld's developer Pocket Pair. The duo alleges that Palworld infringes on 3 of their patents. For creature capture, rideable creature switching, the case brought in front of the Tokyo District Court has yet to make its way to trial. Oh yes, the patent infringement over an idea of trapping a wild animal. Yes, this is Nintendo's attempt to re-establish a monopoly over an entire genre. The thing is, Pokemon is ultimately a derivative of pre-existing concepts and ideas from the real world, and somehow they still think they own the idea. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Nintendo created a time travel system so they can go back in time to sue hunter-gatherers in 500 BC because they caught a rabbit in a snare. You know, I was watching Ghostbusters the other day, and even they throw something to catch the ghosts. So does that mean Nintendo can sue them even though Ghostbusters predates Pokemon? Japan's patent office says Nintendo's monster capture patent application isn't original. In late October 2025, the Japanese patent office rejected Nintendo's patent application number 2024-031879, which is related to the family of creature capture patents that Palworld is accused of infringing. Ooh, ouch, that is a deadly blow. The JPO patent examiner found that the application lacks originality to be deemed an invention, citing prior art such as Monster Hunter 4, Ark Survival Evolved, Gacha Browser, Kantei Collection, and even Pokemon Go. All of those were released prior to the December 2021 prior date of the rejected application. Now, the absolute stagnation of Pokemon as an IP is what Nintendo should actually be focusing on. It's embarrassing how little that game has changed in 28 years since the release of the original games on the Game Boy. So what Nintendo has decided to do is just burn their goodwill. But the thing is, Nintendo fans have this really bizarre level of brand loyalty. I mean, it's really weird. The Pokemon morons are like, well, we fell for it again. They sold us absolute schlop. You know, surely they won't do this again with the next game, right? We'll just buy it day one. Anyway, look, honestly, this mess is exactly what Nintendo fans signed up for. You can call it a humiliation ritual, but for the cult of Nintendo, it's another Monday, it's another Tuesday, it's another Wednesday. So Nintendo's Palworld lawsuit suddenly looks shakier because Nintendo has 60 days from the date of its rejection notice to amend its application or appeal the decision, giving it until late December 2025 to do so. If the central component of the patent family is struck down, related patents may face increased scrutiny and validity challenges as such. While this rejection does not directly affect the ongoing case, it potentially strengthens Pocket Pair's defense strategy that can test the validity of Nintendo's anti-Palworld claims, presiding that the judge is not bound by the JPO's decision, final or not, but it might influence his decision making. But it's very important to note why I think this whole thing is actually over, is that judges in Japan are legally trained and tend to have respect for the determinations made by patent examiners, who are technically trained. So you add that with Nintendo constantly amending their lawsuits, it's a terrible, terrible look. By the way, it's so funny to me that Palworld gives off a stronger sense of presence as if they're like the industry leader, whereas Pokemon and Nintendo seem like the new, little brother struggling to try and imitate their bigger brother. So in another blow to Nintendo, another patent central to the ongoing dispute is facing some trouble. A ride switching system implementation that Nintendo moved to amend in the middle of their Palworld lawsuit back in July. Amending a patent during an active litigation is uncommon, and the vague language used in the proposed amendment was even more unusual. The amendment request delayed the proceedings, requiring parts of the case to be re-examined. Yeah, because judges love that. So the lawsuit is now expected to extend well into 2026. So this whole thing is just going to end with the judge crashing out and telling Nintendo to go make good games. Because we all know that this whole thing is just them desperately trying to stop developers from making games better than theirs. And we all know how this is going to end. The judge is going to throw out the patent lawsuit because Nintendo is so sour, so butthurt that Palworld ate their lunch by adding more features to the base concept of the game that Nintendo would have added 50 years in the future. So yeah, Palworld is basically doing things that Nintendo would be doing 50 years from now. So what people have to remember is that Palworld didn't really damage Pokemon. No, they didn't, because it's more like they opened a very, existing wound. Because for the last few years, Pokemon has been criticized for the lack of innovation and becoming stale. And then Palworld comes along with like 1/100th of the budget and then scratches an itch that we've all been waiting for so long. But for some reason, according to Nintendo, that's Palworld's fault, and that means they deserve to get sued. But remember, according to Nintendo, a corrupt billion-dollar corporation, we're talking debt collectors, are the good guys in their new Pokemon games and totally not predatory and greedy. Yeah, thanks Nintendo for that self-report, and on that bombshell, let me know what you think in the comments. Manix out.